I'm the Mayor of the City of Canning. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Ordinary Council meeting. Just a slightly late start. It's just after 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening, the 19th of November 2024. I declare the meeting open. We start by acknowledging the Whadjuk people, the traditional custodians of the land. We also pay our respects to elders, both past and present. Can I ask everybody here this evening to make sure your mobiles are turned off or on silent for the duration of the meeting, and this meeting is being live streamed via the City's YouTube channel. Council meetings are public meetings, and any information you shall provide shall be recorded and may be publicly accessible. The council chambers are not a parliament, and parliamentary privilege does not apply. Elected members and staff risk being held personally liable if their comments are found to be defamatory or breach any duty of confidentiality. Statements made during council meetings are solely those of the person making them, and nothing expressed at a council meeting can be attributed to the city unless it is adopted by a resolution of council. Elected members and employees must disclose any financial proximity or partiality interest they have in an item on the agenda and declare that interest at the commencement of the meeting or at the very latest when the item is about to be discussed. Financial proximity and impartiality interests are to be disclosed in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act 1995. Elected members disclosing a financial or proximity interest must not participate in that part of a briefing relating to their interest and must leave the meeting for the duration of the item. The confirmed minutes of a council meeting are the official record of that council meeting. Verbatim minutes are not required under the Act. Nevertheless, the City of Canning does publish a full recording of tonight's meeting, and recordings of council meetings must not be copied, republished or reproduced without the City's express permission. At item 2, apologies, there are none. Thank you, councillors. Have the full Council of the City of Canning present here this evening. Approved leave at item 2.2, there is none. Disclosures of interest. Chief Executive Officer, have we had any disclosures of interest?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've received no declarations of either a financial interest or a partiality interest for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. At item 4, announcements by the presiding member without discussion. There are none. Reports of delegates without discussion. Does any member wish to table a delegate report this evening? No, thank you. Question time for the public. Response to previous questions taken on notice at item 6.1. There are none. Questions from the public. I will open public question time now. The time, by my reckoning, is about 5 minutes past 6 p.m. The time set aside for public question time is 15 minutes, which may be extended if necessary. For recording purposes, please, if you're here to ask a question tonight, I'll just ask you to step up to the lectern. The microphone will already be on. Just introduce yourself to the council and just ask your question. So just in relation to asking questions, just to remember, just for the sake of the meeting, that we don't need a long preamble. It's just questions time. So please just ask your question. We know about the issue that you're probably going to raise, and hopefully we'll be in a position to answer it for you tonight. In accordance with policy ADO2, members of the public who have registered their questions with the City's administration shall be called upon in the order in which registrations were received, but written questions will always precede verbal questions. We do have a number of questions that were submitted tonight for the meeting from a gentleman named Rob Borra. I will read the first of them. Question 1, Mr. Borra is from St James. We have his address. First question is, in regards to the submission on the Bentley redevelopment, could you please define social housing and affordable housing? According to Julian at DevelopmentWA, the definitions in the draft master plan on page 32 are incorrect. Director Graham Bride.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a question to put to the Department of Communities, who establish the criteria and thresholds for social and affordable housing, with that information being available on their website. The state government has declared the area a redevelopment area and is not only responsible for social and affordable housing provision, but will have ultimate control over future planning proposals.
Thank you. The second question is, in discussion with DevelopmentWA, they have mentioned they can set up the underground infrastructure for future CCTV. Development WA needs guidance input on this from the City of Canning. Is the City of Canning considering this, as it will be of no cost to the City of Canning until oblique if they decide to use CCTV in the redevelopment area? Director Bride.
Through Mr Mayor. Discussion on CCT provision within the public realm will form part of the City's assessment of any detailed public realm plans as they are developed. Suitable locations for CCTV will be considered at this stage, but certainly from a City's perspective we'll be very interested in accessing any opportunities for CCTV in that area.
Thank you. The final question from Mr Borra is, if we are currently having problems with social housing at 9.5%, if it's increasing to 14.3% in the new development, how is that going to help the area? I know 90% of social housing is not a problem. It's the less than 10% that are involved in crime, dealing with drug and alcohol abuse, damage and trauma to neighbours in the community. So far, the Department of Communities have been unable to deal with the problem effectively, and then goes on to talk about a house that somewhat identifies a house, so I won't go any further with that. Director Bride.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As per the answer to question 1, the state government is responsible for the provision of social housing and also manages tenant behaviour.
Thank you. And I just wanted to make it patently clear, and I think everybody's aware, the Bentley 360 project is not a City of Canning project. The City of Canning is a little bit of a bystander. We're doing some advocacy for the community, but the Minister himself has declared it a development area and has exercised his discretion under the Act to be pretty much the sole decision maker, and that has taken away a lot of the decision making that a council might normally be involved in. So we are somewhat bystanders in the process, and whilst Director Bride's answers to those questions might seem a little bit like we're kind of pushing the problem to somebody else, this is not a City of Canning project, and those questions are better addressed by state government. It's a state government project being run by Development WA, and Development WA is a state government municipality, state government instrument. So I just wanted to make that clear before we have a number of other questions here. The first of which I have will be Fiona Hillary of Mitchell Street in Bentley. Fiona, would you like to come forward? Thank you.
Good evening. First question is actually related to the CCTV, but it's scripted slightly differently. To increase safety and security concerns, not just for Bentley Redevelopment Project, but also Bentley St James, how will the City ensure that the development of WA implements safety and security infrastructure in line with the Community Infrastructure Strategy dated June 2024 for the area, with the project to align with the Australian Government's Smart Cities and Suburbs program, which in turn could potentially unlock further funding opportunities for CCTV and smart technology for the city, similar to that of the City of Perth's Smart City Innovation Program, and moreover help mitigation cost impacts for all Canning City ratepayers by addressing infrastructure needs in advance.
Thank you. I'll just hand it over to Director Bright. I just wanted to explain that with the questions this evening, if we're not in a position to be able to provide you with a full answer tonight, we do what we call, we'll take them on notice. So there'll be a written response to them, and that'll be published in the agenda in the minutes for the meeting. But sometimes we're just not able to answer those off the cuff. Director Bright.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, at this stage, we're looking at a master plan, which is a high-level planning document. We are having regular meetings with Development WA. Our Manager of Community Safety will be becoming more involved in those meetings. So there's issues around CCTV, also the way the development's designed, which is called SEPTED assessment, will be undertaken. So all these things will be addressed as we work through the detail of the public realm plans that get presented.
Thank you. Your second question?
Second question is, the submission only briefly mentions the Bentley Community Centre and only in relation to parking in the redevelopment plans. Given that the current facilities are primarily designed for meeting-type gatherings, there seems to be an opportunity to better utilise the space for a wider range of community activities, such as sporting functions like basketball, tennis, which are currently limited by weather conditions. Could you please clarify the city's vision for enhancing this space and what specific steps are being considered to improve the community centre's aesthetics and functionality, particularly to align to the new surrounding development? Additionally, through various community forums, residents have expressed a desire for the facility to function similarly to the Victoria Park Community Centre. What opportunities for collaboration with DevWA and developers on planning upgrades to the community centre to ensure the centre meets the evolving needs of the community?
Director Bride, is that a question you're able to answer?
Through you, Mr Mayor, similar to the last answer, we are liaising with DevelopmentWA. The main focus at the moment was to ensure or to advocate for the Bentley Community Centre and its land to come into the city's ownership. And that's probably the primary goal at this stage. But certainly even this afternoon, we've had discussions with DevelopmentWA about the new building, the car park, the functionality, and how that might need some modifications or changes into the future. And certainly, Director Fisher and myself will be having regular bi-monthly meetings to go through some of that detail. So, again, not probably for the master plan level, but certainly the functionality, the use of it, whether some orientation issues or the way it's presented in the public open space, that'll all be addressed as part of the ongoing discussions.
Thank you. Just your final question?
Do I get to ask?
No,
Okay.
sorry. We've got a lot of people waiting and we've got
No problems.
Thank you.
I previously submitted this question to Michael Littleton on the 13th of November after the last meeting with no response thus far, so I'd like to now table the question.
Sorry, I just missed that. Sorry, what was that you said about no response from who?
From Michael Littleton. I sent an email on the 13th of November at 9:09 after the last meeting,
Okay.
asking to, as per the addendum agenda briefing dated the 12th of November, PD 009-24, and I won't go into the whole blurb after that. There was an item in reference to the council in accordance with section 81 of the Metropolitan Redevelopment Authority Act, nominates the following 3 elected members to be considered for representation on the Development Bentley Land Redevelopment Committee: yourself, Mayor, Councillor Singh and Councillor Hearn. That was carried unanimously. However, nowhere in any of the documentation that I've searched through can I find out where the confirmed representative is. And part 2 of that is we believe that it might be Michelle Hearn. That's the whispers that we've heard. And then additionally, I asked, could I be provided with a role description or any documentation that was given to the city outlining the committee's representatives' accountabilities and responsibilities?
Well, I can confirm that Councillor Hearn is the nominated member. Are we able to provide Director Bride? Do you know much about the terms of reference?
Yeah, they are on the Development WA's website, but we can certainly, I can certainly touch base with Julian Turco at DevWA to make sure you get a copy of those, I guess, the terms of reference for that committee and the role.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming along this evening. Vanessa Halsmith from Q Cove in Bentley, welcome. Thanks for coming along.
Hi. My first question is Councillor Michelle Hearn. As a council representative on the Development WA Bentley Land Redevelopment Committee, how and what actions have you taken to represent the community? And please clarify why you have not personally participated in any community forums aside from your late attendance at the Development WA community consultation at the Community Centre on Wednesday the 23rd of October 2024, nor engage with the community through social media or community organised gatherings.
I won't allow the question to be directed directly to the, that's in line with the protocols under the standing orders. We can have a written response on that. I won't allow that question to be answered here tonight.
Sure.
But just generally, Councillor Hearn, I don't speak for Councillor Hearn, but Councillor Hearn's a new member of this council and she will be a worthy member of that committee, and I would encourage the community to contact Councillor Hearn by email. I'm certain that you'll get a response. If you have queries, please contact her, and I'm sure you'll see engagement in relation to this issue. She represents this council and the community on the committee.
Okay. So this is a second one directed at Councillor Michael Hearn and Councillor Hardeep Singh. In fulfilling your responsibilities as Mason Ward councillors, what consultation, both now and in the future, will you take with the current residents and ratepayers of the Mason Ward, and how will you communicate the outcome of these consultations with all relevant stakeholders, including both the city and the residents and Development WA?
Yep. So again,
Yep.
I won't allow the question. So the reason for question time is to actually ask questions of me as the mayor or the city's administration through me. I speak for the council. I can't allow questions to be directed at individual councillors in relation to their performance. I don't think it's proper. I don't think it's necessary at this stage. If you have a third and final question, obviously I'd be happy to entertain it. But if it is in relation to a personal a councillor, it's not. Please ask your third question then. Happy to entertain it.
Okay. Could you please outline the actions the City of Canning is taking to guarantee that when Development WA transfers land or properties to the Department of Communities, the Department of Communities will be transparent whilst being held accountable for complying with and enforcing its policies and procedures, and specifically to ensure compliance with the Residential Tenancy Act, to ensure the Department of Communities upholds its duty of care as landlords, particularly in regards to the safety and well-being of Bentley residents and the overall success of the Bentley 360 redevelopment?
I hear the frustration in your voice. I certainly understand it and apologise that you feel that way. I'll actually ask Director Bride to answer the question, but I can tell you that as a local government, we can't hold a state government department or the state government to account in relation to transparency. They will do as they please, and we don't have any ability to hold them to the level, I'm just being very careful with the words I choose, to the standard that you expect. We can't do that. Director Bride?
Through Mr Mayor, exactly what you said in terms of the Department of Communities. From time to time, we do advocate if there is a tidy issue, say the property's falling into disrepair, we do often advocate, but in terms of behavioural issues, it's solely and squarely with the Department of Communities.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along this evening. And can I just say before you leave, I'm sorry that we're unable to answer some of those questions. There's just certain protocols with a council meeting that we're just not able to. But I would encourage you to engage with both of your local ward councillors. I know them both. They're wonderful people and busy, but they will get back to you. And if you have concerns, I'd encourage you to CC them both in. CC me in if you'd like to into the conversation. So at least, myself or other councillors are abreast of what's going on in the area. But don't leave it here tonight, and don't be frustrated by the lack of answers to the questions. Keep talking to your local councillors. Thank you. We have next Kath. Sorry, I'm just trying to understand. Morgo, is it? Hi, Kath. How are you? Thanks for coming along. Is it Humphrey Street in St James?
Correct. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
My first question is in regards to the Arbor report. Just when was it commissioned for the Bentley development project? My understanding is it was around 2009, which would make it quite an old Arbor report. That's my first question.
Director Bride.
Through Mr Mayor, there has been a number of arborist reports in relation to the trees out on that particular site. 2009, I'm sure there is a more recent report, but certainly, tree retention is an important part of the master plan, and Development WA in the master plan are advocating for tree retention throughout the estate.
Yes, my second question is in regards to tree protection zones and structural protection zones. That would they be included in the award of the contract with the enabling works and also forwarding works, that's included in that scope?
Director Bride.
Through Mr Mayor, certainly with the remediation works, obviously they need to dig down quite deep to remove the contamination underneath the land. So there are some trees that we lost in the remediation stages, but throughout the estate, the majority of trees are being retained, and it would be a requirement through the subdivision process that those trees are protected throughout the development and the subdivisional works.
Thank you. And just your final question, Kath. Thank you.
And the final question is regards to polyphagous shothole borer. This is becoming a huge issue with our urban trees in Perth, particularly certainly in the metro. My question is regards to that with the planning and procurement of landscaping trees, that is a huge consideration to the success of the landscaping.
Director Bright, are you able to answer that?
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, our Parks and Environment team will be assessing all the tree retention strategies and public open space design, so that can certainly be a component of their assessment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along. Just for the sake of the record, under the standing orders, I'm going to extend public question time just for another 10 minutes, and then after that, if we wish to extend it again, it will require a motion put to council, but we'll get to that. Next on the list, I have Kath Longhurst. Hi, Kath. How are you? Thanks for coming along. You're from Palmerston Street in St James.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, in regards to the city's response to Development WA, what, if any, community consultation has the City of Canning done with the residents of Bentley regarding their wishes for the community needs in regards to Bentley 360?
Director Bright.
Through Mr Mayor, obviously, as the Mayor has pointed out before, this project is a Development WA project, so they have controlled the advertising process. We as a city have been given an opportunity to respond like anyone else in the community. But certainly moving forward as we develop and look at the functionality and operation of that Bentley Community Centre and also the public open space, there is going to be a landscape master plan that will follow the master plan, and that will include in it obviously what is proposed to go into the public open space areas. And I have got confirmation from Development WA that will be advertised to the local community. So yes, there's some work around the Bentley Community Centre in terms of its future ongoing use and functionality, but also in terms of the public open space areas, there will be an opportunity for the community to input into those designs.
Okay, thank you. Question 2, what is the City of Canning's recommendation regarding the influx of residents in regards to school capacity?
Was that school capacity?
Yes, sorry, school capacity.
Director Bright, are we able to answer?
Well, the Department of Education would have been given an opportunity to comment on the master plan, so they're responsible for determining the demographics and to work out what the impact will be on the school. So that's really a question for the Department of Education and their demographics branch, but I understand they did request a contribution as part of the subdivision proposal to go towards school facility upgrades in the area.
Okay, thank you. And number 3, we noticed that the City of Canning made recommendation on page 78 and number 36 that the City also encourages Development WA to further improve public open space connections with the possibility of creating a key pedestrian linkage from the Bentley Community Centre site through the existing school oval to Wyong Reserve. The school oval is currently fenced. This would enhance the public open space offering within the redevelopment area and provide a direct linkage from the Bentley Community Centre to Wyong Reserve. This linkage should be investigated by Development WA and Department of Education to provide a truly connected community heart in the centre of the redevelopment area, connecting the Islamic School and Bentley Primary School and Wyong Reserve directly adjacent to the redevelopment area. How does the city envision this?
Thank you. Director, can you provide some commentary around that question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously, technically, it's outside the area of the Bentley redevelopment precinct, but given there is a hard fence barrier along the outer edge, our expectation, that's why it's in the submission, is that the Development WA work with the Department of Education, and the city can also be involved in those discussions to see whether we can open up that area to be used for public purposes. We're a long way away from any agreements on that, but certainly we'll be expressing that in our submission, and we'll be having ongoing discussions on that one.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming along. Judy Potter, over there in right of the wings. You able to come across to the mic? No, she's not.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Come on, Judy. Haven't got all night.
On page 78 of the city's response to Development WA, the city has made the following statement. The removal of the Bentley Community Garden without reinstatement elsewhere will be a loss for the community. Clarification on where the Bentley Community Garden can be relocated is required to be addressed prior to the finalization of the master plan. So my 3 questions are as follows. I'd like you to please clarify the city's position on who these community gardens will be run by, the city, the current registered organization, or the people of the community.
Director Bride.
Through Mr Mayor, at this stage, the master plan process, we're requesting that that garden be accommodated in a relocated position. In terms of its operation, who manages it, who is involved in it, they are separate discussions that aren't really relevant to the master plan. I know that they're important to the community, but they're probably ongoing discussions that need to happen at a later stage.
Second question, Judy.
The community would like to have a breakdown of any and all funding, grants, sponsorships that the City of Canning has provided to date to the Bentley Community Garden.
Are we able to provide that? Obviously, we won't be able to provide that this evening.
We'll probably take that on notice, Mr
We'll
Mayor.
take that on notice, Judy, if you don't mind.
All right, number 3, I would ask the city to please provide all documentation and details the City of Canning holds on community consultation regarding maintaining the community garden under its current organizational status.
CEO, did you want to? Well, I think we'll have to take that on notice. Graham, you happy to take that on notice? That will be a question we won't be able to answer tonight, but we've got it recorded. We'll take that on notice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paddy Evans. Hi, Paddy. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Thank you very well. Thank you for looking after the dog. Good job.
It's my pleasure. How will tonight's feedback be incorporated into the City of Canning submission to Development WA?
Director Bride, did you hear the question?
Yes, through Mr Mayor. Obviously, this is, depending on what council decides tonight, the submission, if endorsed, will go to Development WA, but everyone in the community has had an opportunity to put their own submission in to Development WA. So that'll be captured through that process.
Thanks, Paddy. Second question? Yeah, that's it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions from the floor? If not, I will close public question time. Thank you very much. The time now is 6:30 p.m. Thank you all for coming along tonight. Please stay with us. We've got a bit to go through, but we'll get to the item that you're all here to hear about. The next item we have is, let me see, I'll catch up here. The confirmation minutes at item 7 of tonight's agenda, the ordinary council meeting minutes of the 15th of October 2024. Councillors, the recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 5 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, to accept those minutes? Councillor Rodriguez, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Shensekon, thank you, councillors. We'll put that to the vote. We've got one more. That's it.
The motion to confirm minutes from ordinary council meeting held on the 15th of October 2024 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you, Governance. We move on to item 8, which is the receiving of petitions, presentations and deputations. At item 8.1, there are no petitions. At item 8.2, there are no presentations this evening. At item 8.3, deputations. A deputation has been approved for Megan Cechner of St James. Megan, are you here this evening? You're looking very happy with yourself. Please step forward. That's in relation to item PD 009 of 24, the title of the report being the submission to Development WA on the draft Bentley Redevelopment Master Plan and draft Bentley Redevelopment Scheme. Thanks for coming along. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor and Councillors, for the opportunity to speak today. As said, my name is Megan Cechner. I'm a St James resident and landowner. I've lived in St James for 9 years with my husband and young family, just for some context. I'm here as a concerned community member to address the City's submission to Development WA regarding the draft Bentley Redevelopment Scheme and Master Plan. While the City's submission acknowledges several key elements of the draft plan, I believe it falls short in adequately addressing concerns that have been raised by our community during the consultation process. I respectfully request that Council recommend staff revise the draft submission to better reflect community concerns regarding the project, particularly with the below points. The first point I'd like to raise is social housing and affordable housing. It is a crucial component of any inclusive community. However, at 9.6%, based on the 2021 ABS data, the 6102 postcode has one of the highest densities of social housing within the Perth metropolitan region. As proposed in the master plan, increasing the concentration means that Bentley and St James will have the highest density of social housing than any other area in Perth. And with this comes increase in social issues such as crime and antisocial behaviour, which negatively impacts on the amenity of the neighbourhood. The submission put forward by City staff notes that the maximum social housing ratio of 1 in 7 and references the focus on seniors and single-person households. While this demographic focus is understandable, the overall ratio remains a significant concern. A ratio of 1 in 7 risks creating an overconcentration of social housing in a single development, which could have long-term implications for social cohesion and economic diversity within Bentley and St James. In its submission, I respectfully ask that the City should advocate for a reduced ratio of 1 in 9 social housing within the redevelopment project, and a clarification from the Department of Communities on how it will resource the management of its social housing stock, particularly formal confirmation of the type of housing that the Department of Communities will be seeking, the integration of social housing stock within the project area, avoiding concentrations of pockets of social housing, and how the department's management of disruptive tenants and the impact that this has on residents and landowners. Until this is addressed, increasing the concentration of social housing when the current landlord is falling woefully short in managing its stock compounds this sentiment and makes investors and new residents wary about purchasing within the redevelopment area. And this is a serious risk to the success and viability of the project. Councillors should also note that a petition circulated by community members has more than 315 signatures in 9 days, calling for no more social housing within Bentley. This shows the level of concern that many residents and landowners have regarding the ratios proposed in the master plan and the acute frustration that they have when dealing with antisocial behaviour and crime linked to social housing. In addition, my second point is regarding the public open space requirements. The submission expresses general support for the placement and provision of public open space. However, the community believes that the provision put forward by City staff falls short. With 12% public open space proposed, the master plan does meet the minimum 10% requirements through state government policies. However, it does not meet community expectations. As the state government attempts to meet infill targets, this should not be at the expense of public open space and green spaces. The community believes that the percentage should be more in the range of 15%. The submission should also advocate for maximising usable open space to meet the recreational, social and environmental needs of our growing population. As other community members have highlighted, City of Canning has fallen woefully short in meeting its 30% urban canopy thresholds. Increasing open space within the redevelopment will help address this. As Fiona has made mention, the submission makes mention of the community centre, but does not seek to clarify the arrangement of ownership and redevelopment of the centre. The existing centre is not fit for purpose for residents. Ideally, the community wants to see this asset redeveloped as a life skills centre, which provides for youth, recreation, meeting and community services. I do acknowledge that the excellent resource that the City has invested in regarding the Hillview precinct, and we would like to see a similar approach to a community centre within the redevelopment area. In addition, we ask the Council to clarify the below, either in the submission as appropriate or taken as a question on notice. We'd like to further understand the short-term plans for the community centre from 2025 to 2028 and the long-term strategy for the centre post-2028, and whether the Council has allowed for the redevelopment of the centre in its strategic community plans or in its long-term financial plans. We would also like to seek how the approved Chungwa Community Centre will connect with the existing community purpose area and its use by the wider community. I'd also like to talk, as Kath has mentioned, about the provision of services. The city's submission makes no reference to how local schools and other services, such as police and medical, etc., will be provided for in the new master plan. While this is outside the remit of the council, we respectfully request that your submission refers to this and clarifies with between 900 and 1,000 dwellings proposed, why is there no mention to what plans are in place that will cater to this increase in residents? In conclusion, Bentley and St James deserves the opportunity to flourish. Many of us see the Bentley redevelopment project as an opportunity to lift and activate a suburb which hasn't always had the best reputation. And while the city submission acknowledges some important aspects of the redevelopment, it does not go far enough to address the concerns and aspirations of the community. I urge the council to take a stronger stance on these critical issues to ensure that the Bentley redevelopment project truly serves the needs of its current and future residents. I would like to acknowledge the other residents here tonight and their efforts in advocating and facilitating for Bentley and St James. Thank you very much for your time on this matter.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. You presented that wonderfully, so thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to item 9, which is applications for leave of absence. There are none. Questions by members of which due notice has been given without discussion. There are no questions this evening at item 10. Items brought forward for the convenience of those in the public. I will bring forward item PD 009 of 24, governance, for your attention. That is the matter that's been under discussion, the submission to Development WA on the draft Bentley redevelopment master plan and the draft Bentley redevelopment scheme. Item 12, reports of committee meetings. There are none. I'll just hold off on that for the moment. I'll come to reports in just a second. So we'll move on to reports of committee meetings. At item 12, there are none. And at item 13, reports, I will bring forward that first report, and that will be PD. Councillors, that's PD 009 of 24. The officer's recommendation appears on screen. It also appears on page 70 of tonight's agenda. The officer's recommendation is on screen. Do I have a mover, please, for the item? I'm happy to move it from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Singh, thank you. Look, despite its shortcomings, I'll speak to the recommendation. I actually support the officer's recommendation, notwithstanding with great respect what has been said by a number of members of the community. Council has had some involvement. Actually, at last week's meeting, I've actually asked for further work to have been done on certain areas of the report. The matter of the petition regarding social housing was brought up. Look, I can tell you honestly, hand on heart, Minister Carey is absolutely resolute in his demand for more social housing to be shoehorned into Bentley. And, you know, many of us here sitting here on this council are very much aware of the social issues in Bentley. Up until recently, I had a son and 2 grandchildren living in Bentley. My wife attended Bentley High School. I know Bentley very, very well, and I've been working really hard in there with council to try and enact some change in there. We know the issues that are in there, but Minister Carey has made it very clear. I think sometimes looking towards best possible outcomes is all that a council can do when it has no skin in the game in relation to decision making. So we're thinking in relation to just address that matter of social housing, that focusing on targeting seniors in there. If we must have social housing, then the state government must listen to the community and it must listen to this council and target its effort at least on social housing to seniors. And I think in some way that would mitigate some of the issues that we have had in Bentley for some time. Those issues aren't new. For more than a half a century, I would think for at least a half a century, those social issues have occurred in Bentley, and in many respects the suburb of Bentley and other areas along there, St James and Queen's Park, have been shouldering heavy load that other suburbs in the southeast corridor and particularly all over Perth have not had to shoulder. Try and find me another area in a leafy suburb anywhere in Perth that has 10% social housing, and you just won't find them. So I think enough is enough. I understand your frustration. I share it. This council, I'm sure, shares it. So I and the, myself, council, and the administration have been lobbying government and Development WA to ensure that the social housing mix is specifically targeted to seniors. And as I said, I really do feel that in some way that would be the best outcome we can hope for. And I've got to tell you too publicly, I don't have a lot of faith that the submission that this council and its administration has put an awful lot of time into, I really don't feel that will have an awful lot of influence will come from that written submission. That's my greatest fear, is that government just won't be listening, and that the outcomes that we will receive are outcomes that have already been predetermined by others that don't have any involvement in Bentley. That's my greatest fear, because the people around this table who live in this city understand the issues, and we feel for you, but we've been taken out of that decision-making process. And, speaking to the item in front of us, as a mayor and as a former councillor, I'm really disappointed tonight the council's only involvement in this really significant project is to provide a submission to Development WA, the same as all of you have been able to do. That's really our only involvement, is to do what any resident can do, and that is to provide a submission. And I want it on the public record that Minister Carey did exercise, he wrote to this council, exercising his discretion under the Act to declare it a development area. And in my mind, that has made decision-making for this project solely his alone. And in doing so, I guess he's removed the City of Canning Council from having any real tangible influence over the largest housing development seen in this city for decades. And in doing so, I guess he's also removed the community from the decision-making. And I can see the frustration from all of you here this evening. The state government really is systematically peeling back and winding back the planning powers of local governments, and I think that's a real travesty, and I think that's been well addressed in media. I think people are understanding what's actually happening with the state government and the diminishing of the planning responsibilities of local government. That's something that all of us really should be pushing back on, and it's a real detriment to the voices of local communities. I'm really disappointed. So I share your frustration, but as far as this submission goes, I don't see any sense in not pushing it through tonight. I think it's you may not be entirely happy with it, but I need you to understand that this is a state government project that the City of Canning has had very little influence over at the moment. We're doing our utmost to try to focus our attention on what we believe are the areas we can get the best outcomes from. And you have to take my word for it, we are working really hard peddling under the water. So, councillors, as unpalatable as it might seem, I urge you to support the officer's recommendation and just endorse the submission tonight and get it off to Development WA, so at least the matter can be taken into consideration along with all of the public submissions, and we'll see how we go from there. Councillor Singh, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question for Director Bride, please.
Yes, of course. Director Bride.
Director Bride, if Council doesn't endorse this submission in tonight's meeting, could you please clarify what effect that will have on this project as a whole?
Director Bride.
Yes, through Mr. Mayor. The closing date for submissions was the 16th of November. DevWA did allow an extension for Council, given the meeting tonight. So if Council did not adopt a position at all, then there would be no voice coming from the City of Canning to DevWA, so it would be a lost opportunity to provide input.
Thank you. Councillor
Thank you,
Singh.
Director Bride. The only thing, you have covered pretty much everything very well, Mr. Mayor. The submission does include a lot of factors raised by our residents, Bentley Community Garden, security, social housing issues and stuff. And what I see from the submission is this is, as Director Bride said, this is a master plan. The final plan is still coming, and that's where hopefully City will have more opportunity to provide that feedback and to address all the concerns raised by our residents. So I'm in favour of Officer's recommendation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the item? Deputy Mayor.
Can I just ask a question? The lady that gave the deputation, can I just find out if she's provided a submission for this?
I can see head nodding here. I'm happy for you to come back to the microphone.
Yes, I did, sorry. Yes, I did make the submission as a resident and then also on behalf of a number of community members who had asked me to make a submission on their behalf.
That's a yes for the record. Yes, she has. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Mr Mayor, would it also be possible to include the deputation of tonight in our submission?
Are we able to pin the deputation
This is
as
an
an
attachment.
addendum to our submission, since we haven't submitted it yet?
Through
I can
Mr.
see
Mayor,
the wheels spinning there, Director Bride.
I mean, obviously, it would have to be, I think, an amendment to the officer recommendation to include it. At the moment, it's not part of the attachment 1, so if that was the will of council to at least forward that, then a small amendment to the officer recommendation would probably be required.
But the submission's already been put. It's already been submitted.
Yeah, okay. Look, I'm happy to support this only because the fact is that if we don't do it tonight, it's just not going to get done. I completely concur with everything that you said, Mr Mayor, and I think that it needs to be highlighted as many times as we possibly can that we have been left out of this process, and in leaving the City of Canning out of this, the community's also been left out of it. We have had several presentations from Development WA, and I want to make it clear to the members of the community that have been here that as your local representatives, we have asked these questions on your behalf, and it's very clear, it's as plain as day, that they simply just don't care. This is going ahead as it is, whether we like it or whether you like it or not. And I want to make it very clear that I sympathise with all of you because you have to live amongst this. I get the privilege of just driving through it. So this certainly doesn't warrant as me supporting the development and, the planning reforms that did go through Parliament earlier this year that made this possible to exclude the community from what happens in their local area. But I think it's very important that our submission is submitted and that I honestly agree with you, Mr Mayor. I don't think it's really no one's really going to take any notice of it, but at least it's on the record, which I think is really all we can do. Our hands are tied. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Does anyone else wish to speak on the item before we put it to the vote? Yes, Councillor Ben Kunza.
I just have a question through
Yes, of
you
course.
to Director Bride. What's happening, Director Bride, with all the investment with respect to the Northern Parklands and that was opened 5 years ago on the site? Obviously, there was a big opening with several members of Parliament there, and is that just being removed in the next few years?
The Northern Parklands. What happened with that? There was a lot of chest beating about how wonderful that was going to be. What happened?
Yes, through Mr Mayor, obviously that's part of the remediation area, so that whole area will be rehabilitated, which means that the park could have been put back, but spatially the distribution of POS or public open space is as it is in the master plan. So that park won't be going back in the exact same location. There's now going to be a centralised park as per the master plan documents.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Kunza.
But obviously, when that progressed, the then Minister was intending to progress this whole development in an expeditious manner. Were they aware of the amount of remediation works? Why on earth did they invest into putting all that infrastructure there and then subsequently removing it for remediation?
Director Bride.
Through Mr Mayor, I'm not sure if I can answer that question. It's a good question to put to DevWA, and I'm happy to follow up outside the meeting and see if I can get a response to that.
It calls for speculation and the Director can't answer that. Yes, Councillor Kunza.
Oh, well, I mean, I was here at the time and I thought we were going to have works progressing by now, so for it to be ripped up subsequently. And my understanding is there was a lot of involvement of local primary school kids into that development. So is the school being engaged with respect to the removal of these playgrounds and parklands?
Director Bride, do the primary schools, have they been appraised on the fact that all that infrastructure is being torn out?
Through Mr Mayor, I know they've had discussions with the school. They have regular discussions with the school. The case in point was around that issue of the fencing that we talked about before. Certainly there would have to be a liaison with all stakeholders, including the schools that still utilise that POS. And that'll be ahead of the remediation works. They're going to have to do a lot of stakeholder engagement, including the schools and the wider community.
Just to clarify, I mean, they had a personal investment into that infrastructure and the design. So would the school be aware it's been removed?
Director Bright?
Through Mr Mayor, we'd have to ask the school direct. I'm not sure what discussions have been had between DevWA and the school.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Singh, you have another question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, to Director Bright, please. Director Bright, in our submission to DevelopmentWA, we are clearly saying our officers have raised queries and we would like clarification on the maximum provision of social and affordable housing within the development. Now, if we do not get that clarification, what powers as a city, as council, we have to do something about it?
Director Bright?
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, we have got some clarity and they've made a commitment around the maximum social housing provision. So usually in a master plan or a structure plan document, it's all about built form, public open space, road network. You don't generally get a statement as to the maximum public open space, maximum social housing provision. So they have at least made that very clear, and that's something that we can, the city can hold them to account on. In terms of affordable housing, they haven't actually worked through what that mix will be. So at this stage, they haven't declared a percentage for the affordable housing component. Again, it's really up to the state government in relation to how that provision occurs on the ground.
And just on that, Councillor, as you would know, I recently wrote to Minister Carey himself personally, and I formally requested a meeting with the Minister to discuss the concerns of the council and the concerns of the community in relation to social housing. He didn't grant a meeting. In fact, he actually diverted me off and suggested I talk to DevelopmentWA, and I was really somewhat offended by that, but also highly disappointed. And that's the level of engagement that we have had. As a mayor, I can't even speak to the minister. He won't speak to me, and I can't actually get him to engage in a meeting, and that's disappointing. As a big community, and those are the things that people should know. But council, I think I sent around a copy of the letter from Minister Carey. He won't meet with us. That's a real disappointment. Councillor Singh.
Mr. Mayor, just one further question, because this question is on the minds of most of the community members. I somewhat know the answer, but would like to ask the question to have that clarification and for the sake of public as well.
So you'd like to ask a question that you already know an answer to?
Not fully, but I would like to get an answer so that it's on the record and the community understands as well.
Go ahead.
This is a question, we as councillors get a lot from community, so it's good to have that on the record. Given that there is a lot of social housing coming into Bentley, and there already is, and the core of the problem is, as it was mentioned, 90% of social housing, it's great. It's just the 10% which has some crime issues and stuff. Residents report all those issues to Department of Communities because they are responsible for managing that housing. But when residents do not get a satisfactory response or an action, what can city do on behalf of our residents to hold Department of Communities to account, to act on it? I understand it's a state government department, we don't have much, but what can be done so that our residents know, okay, should they be contacting city for that issue? That is the main issue right now. People report, nothing happens. I myself have reported many issues I've seen in my community. I have seen not many improvements.
I'll ask Director Bride. Director Bride, you would recommend people speak to Department of Communities?
Yeah, it's true, Mr Mayor, that they should speak to the Department of Communities. They've also got the opportunity, dare I say it, to speak to their local state member of parliament. But as I said, if it involves some untidy sites, some hoarding of materials out the front, we do get involved in those, but behaviour, it's Department of Communities.
Thanks, councillors. Before we put the item to the vote, and I'd like to move on, does anyone else wish to speak on the item before we move on? Thank you. I'll just close only to say, just for the people that are here in front of us today, thank you, councillors, for considering the item. What a wonderful opportunity this has been for Bentley 360. All of us hoped it would actually change the narrative for Bentley. We thought, what a wonderful opportunity. Just imagine if this one pocket of Bentley didn't have social housing, or a much lower percentage of it What a wonderful opportunity Bentley 360 presented. And unfortunately, we don't have any decision-making influence on what is occurring in there. So I encourage the community to continue to speak to your local members of parliament. They have been elected to represent you, and if you're not happy about what is happening there, please write to them directly. But having said that, there are a lot of really beneficial elements to what's happening in there. To see that block of land that's been looking bereft for many years, some of the elements in there, we have seen the master plan. There are elements of it that are going to be beneficial to the community. And I think we just have to accept that we are going to be delivered what we are going to be delivered. We have to make the best of it, but we will keep working hard to ensure that we get the best possible outcomes with the little stick we have to wield at the moment, which seems to be getting smaller by the day. Councillors, without any further ado, I will put the item to the vote. Thank you.
The motion for PD-009-24 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Thanks, everyone, for coming along this evening. Please feel free to leave if you would like to. We'll be here for quite some time dealing with the business of council, but appreciate you coming. Thank you, Judy. Your dog was very well behaved tonight. Thank you. We will move on to item 13.1, which are the reports from the Office of the CEO. There are none this evening. Item 13.2. Which are the reports from the Director, Corporate and Commercial, Ms Lorraine Driscoll, CC 024 of 24. The title of the report is the Monthly Financial Report for September 2024. The Officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 8 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Mover, please, for the item. Thank you, Councillor Hearn and Councillor Kunza. Councillor Hearn.
I have no comments to add and I will support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Kunza?
Ditto.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak against the item before we put it to the vote? Thank you, councillors. Let's put that item to the vote.
The motion for CC-024-24 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you, Governance. We move to CC 025 of 24. The report title is Proposed Land Lease, Baris Education and Culture Foundation at 40 Edgeware Street in Lynwood. The officer's recommendation appears on screen and also appears on page 47 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for the item? Councillor Bain, thank you very much. A seconder? Councillor Page, thank you. Councillor Bain?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I support the officer's recommendation and the city entering into a lease with Baris, the conditions of which have been negotiated and agreed to by both parties. Appropriately, under the terms of the new lease, Baris will now pay for both asset depreciation and maintenance, and that will be around $25,000 a year, a cost which will no longer be borne by residents and ratepayers. The terms are reasonable and consistent with policy BR01, and should Baris wish to apply for and receive approval to operate childcare services from the site in the future, commercial rates will also apply. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Page.
I also support the officer's recommendation, and Councillor Bain covered it.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hearn.
I'd like to move an alternate motion, please.
A foreshadowed motion, is that what you're saying?
Is that the one?
So a foreshadowed motion is if this motion fails, if it's put to the vote and it fails, the foreshadowed motion may then come into effect. Is that what you're proposing?
I want to amend what's in 2 and 3.
You can only make an amendment if it doesn't materially change the intent of the recommendation. So if it materially change the intent. Sorry?
I want to materially change the intent.
It won't materially change it?
It will.
Well, then it can't be an amendment.
Foreshadowed motion.
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
So I have to move a foreshadowed motion?
You would have to move a foreshadowed motion. Have you got it prepared?
Yeah.
You'd have to provide the foreshadowed motion to governance. Governance, have you been provided with a foreshadowed motion prior to the meeting?
Should I approach governance?
No. I'll get governance to come over and see you perhaps, but just in future, we just need to do these things prior to the meeting.
Are you allowed to borrow this?
Yeah, I can. So change to after Lynwood to prepare 3 years for enter discussions with student to see control. That's it. So that's a new 4. Currently there's only 3. Yeah.
Councillors, we're just going to have to stand by for a couple of minutes while we draft up the foreshadowed motion.
Can you tell me, do I think now to support, do I think support the foreshadowed motion or against the main motion? What do I do first? Where do I speak? So I have to speak against the main motion. Okay. Okay, I see. Oh God, why is it so hard? About the main motion.
Councillors, I'll just ask for you to just be aware that your microphones are still on and your conversations are being recorded. Councillor Hearn, is that the foreshadowed motion you wish to put? Councillors, I'll just draw your attention to the screen, please. Thank you, councillors. That is the proposed alternate motion. The proposed alternate motion. Councillor Page, sorry, I'll have to ask you to stop speaking. Thank you. Can I just draw your attention to the screen? I understand you were being led astray by Councillor Kunza. And that would be the foreshadowed alternate motion in the event that this motion in front of you actually is not supported by council. Councillor Bain has actually moved the original recommendation in support. Councillor Page has also supported the officer's recommendation. Do I have anyone else wishing to speak on the item before we put it to the vote? Councillor Hearn.
So I'm speaking against the motion as it currently stands. For me, the current use and the proposed use are both not responsibilities of the local government and fall quite firmly in the domain of state government. I do not support a lease being extended beyond a time when the known and confirmed use of the site is not yet established. There is a cost to the city beyond the cost of the asset renewal, which has to date actually been borne by ratepayers, but the administration of leases by the local government takes staff time, and this is inefficiency. In a year in which we've had above CPI rate increases out of cycle, City of Canning really must focus on inefficiencies and delivering core deliverables. By way of lost asset renewal contributions, based on the straight line depreciation portrayed in the information briefing, the ratepayers have already subsidised this school around $250,000, and based on the staggered increase in rental, this will now approach $300,000 in the next 5 years. Further, ratepayers will now formally cede some public open space to this school, yet another cost borne by the ratepayers. Now, last week it was mentioned that this site can generate revenue. Well, that is income collected as reserve funds to renew an existing asset, and this is not profit. And there is no guarantee based on this current arrangement that this site will ever generate income above and beyond that amount. I do not consider asset depreciation to be market rent. In this instance, $440 a week would not lease a private residence in this locale, much less a school site. I do not finally accept that an organisation which cannot meet market rent rates can fund an $800,000 asset investment. So I will not be supporting this motion in its original form.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on the item before I... yes, Councillor Kunza.
I just want to ask a question. This was asked at the agenda briefing last week, well, brought up, and based on the foreshadowed alternative. The Department of Communities obviously has control of leases with respect to community kindergartens and family centres and so forth, and they're looking to cede control to local governments. Is there any department that has leases over non-government schools? Because that's what we'd be needing to do, would it not? Looking for a state government department to overtake a lease for a non-government school?
Director Driscoll, is that something you're able to answer tonight?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not aware of that, but I'll probably have to take that one on notice. I don't actually know the answer to that.
We have to take that on notice. Anyone else wish to speak on the item before I ask Councillor Bain to close? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Although I see point and merit in what Councillor Hearn is trying to say, I'm supportive of the Office of Recommendation simply because this is the policy that we have in the city. If rather than going through each individual case by case, I think if there's to be a policy change, it should be across the board, not on an individual basis. So if there was a notice of motion in front of me that considered us divesting from these types of leases in the future, I would be inclined to support it, but I don't think it's fair or worth going tonight at this very last minute when we've already gone back to Baris with what we thought this council was comfortable with and what we're comfortable with, and then changing the goalposts very last minute. So I will support this officer's recommendation, but I am also, open to looking at this from a policy position in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak before I ask Councillor Bain to close debate? Councillor Bain, did you wish to close debate?
I'll just provide some brief comments. Thank you, Mr Mayor. As the Deputy Mayor just noted, both Baris and the City have been in negotiation regarding the lease for the past few months. The lease that has been put forward to us is consistent with BRO1. I think it's a fair and reasonable conditions and terms that have been put forward, and also note that Baris have been providing their pre-kindy services at the site for 12 years. And this is a continuation, and it's an approved use of the site, and it will be reconsidered. That is the lease, should the time come when Baris decide to move into the commercial realm and operate the facility as a different use. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Let's put the item to the vote.
The motion for CC-025-24 has been carried with 10 in favour and Councillor Hearn voting against the motion.
Thank you. The item is carried. We move on to CC-026 of 24 in tonight's agenda, the title being Land Matters in brackets Phase 1 for Welshpool Road Duplication, the acquisition of land from 320 Welshpool Road. The officer's recommendation is on screen. It also appears on page 61 of tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Happy to. Thank you, Councillor Singh. A seconder, please. Okay. Councillor Parkinson, thank you. Councillor Singh.
I support the officer recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Parkinson, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak against the item? Councillors will put the item to the vote. Thank you.
The motion for CC-026-24 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you, Governors. We dealt earlier in the night with item 13.3, so we move on to item 13.4. Director Warren Bowe, the Director of Infrastructure and Environment, is the responsible officer for this report, the report being IE 017 of 24. The report title is Tender 18/2024 for tree, Tubestock and turf watering services. The officer's recommendation is on screen. Thank you, Governance, and also appears on page 93. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Councillor Shen second, thank you very much, and a seconder. Councillor Kunza. Councillor second.
I agree with the officer's recommendation and I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Councillor Kunza, have you got anything further to add?
Yeah, look, I support the officer recommendation. I thank Director Bowes and his team for responding to any queries and concerns, and hope that there's no issues going forward and we have a thriving ecological environment. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on the matter before we put it to the vote? Thank you. Let's put the item to the vote. Thank you.
The motion for IE-017-24 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you. We move to IE 019 of 24. The title of this report is the Proclamation of Leach Highway Interchange at Welshpool Road. I guess that's Welshpool there. The recommendation appears on page 100 of the agenda and is also on screen. Can I have a mover, please, for that item? Councillor Singh, thank you. A seconder. Happy to move that from the chair. Councillor Singh.
I support the officer recommendation. Thank you, Mr.
We
Mayor.
also support the officer's recommendation as a seconder and have nothing further to add. Councillors, anyone wish to speak against the item? We shall put the item to the vote.
The motion for IE-019-24 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you. There are no reports from the office of Mr. Gary Fisher, the Director of Customer and Community. We move on to item 14 on tonight's agenda. That is motions of which previous notice has been given. The first of which has been presented by Councillors Bain and Councillor Page. They've submitted a notice of motion titled Abandoned Shopping Trolleys. It's notice of motion 009 of 24. The recommendation is on page 113 of the agenda. Councillor Bain, can I put you down as the mover for that item? Councillor Page, I will put you as the seconder. Thank you. Councillor Bain, would you like to commence discussing your motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Abandoned shopping trolleys reduce the amenity and livability of our suburbs. They make Canning streets and parks look untidy, unwelcoming and uncared for. Not only are they an eyesore, they are a safety risk to users when left on roads and footpaths. When thrown into the Canning River or bushland, they become a hazard to wildlife and volunteers, as well as a long-term pollution problem. Just last week, Mayor Hall alerted me to a Woolworths shopping trolley that he found abandoned on the edge of a footpath in the middle of the Canning River Regional Park. How this trolley made it so far into Canning's signature conservation area is concerning, and given its location, it will now more than likely have to be removed by our rangers and taken back to the store. Also in the regional park, DBCA recently fished out 2 trolleys from the Canning River, which had been thrown overboard over the side of the Greenfield Street Bridge, which is only a 12-minute walk away from Carousel. The Canning River Regional Park volunteers report seeing authorities pull out numerous trolleys from this location in the past. A few weeks ago, down the road from the bridge and a 5-minute walk from Carousel, I reported 12 discarded trolleys on one single verge on Carden Drive. A local Ferndale resident regularly puts his own welfare at risk to pull trolleys out of Edgeware Lake in Lynwood. Every day he collects abandoned trolleys left in parks and streets and returns them to the local shopping centre. He reports collecting trolleys that have been hit by cars at night after being pushed out onto Metcalfe Road. I've also seen local kids sitting in and hanging on to abandoned trolleys, pushing each other up and down the ramps at our own Lynwood skate park. Clearly, the retailers' current collection methods are not working. Residents and rangers should not have to deal with abandoned shopping trolleys. As our public and property places local law states, they are the responsibility of the retailers. Unlike Queensland councils, WA councils are constricted by state legislation. They cannot make rules around trolley management. Until the state government changes its position, and hopefully the next government does, the only options councils have to address the issue of abandoned trolleys is to issue retailers fines and to impound their trolleys. It is clear, however, as the City of Cockburn found, these approaches just do not work. What does work are containment systems. While WA councils cannot make them mandatory for shopping centres, as in Queensland, we can at least meet with their management to let them know of our concerns and how their trolleys are affecting our community and natural environment. Importantly, we can also discuss the methods the cities can employ to prevent shopping trolleys being taken beyond their boundary and how we can work together to put a stop to abandoned shopping trolleys in the City of Canning. More needs to be done about abandoned shopping trolleys. The existing collection services are not good enough. Business as usual will only see the problem get even worse. A change in approach is needed, and that is what this motion is trying to initiate. Thank you to my fellow elected members for considering this nom. I hope that it receives your support. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Page, it's an issue, isn't it? Would you like to say a few words?
I absolutely would. Thank you so much. When trolleys are abandoned outside retail premises, they contribute to visual clutter, making our environment look unkempt and disorganised. It's an issue that affects everyone, from residents to visitors, and creates a negative first impression of the city. Clean streets, free from discarded items and abandoned carts, are essential for the well-being of the community. Wharf Street Basin, a multi-million-dollar award-winning community park, is often laden with abandoned shopping trolleys, even with our community services team checking on it twice a day and reporting it through. Containment systems offer a simple, effective solution. These systems, such as deposit systems or magnetic barriers, ensure trolleys stay within the boundaries of retail properties. By encouraging retailers to install these systems, we can create a more visually appealing environment. Abandoned trolleys are more than just an eyesore. They also pose a real safety hazard. They can block pedestrian pathways, create obstacles for people with mobility impairments, and cause accidents for cyclists and pedestrians. A stray trolley left in a public area can be a dangerous hazard, especially for children playing with them on roads or at our skate parks or bike pump track. I have personally treated a teenage patient with multiple fractures after they went down a skate bowl in a shopping trolley, which required months of rehabilitation. Furthermore, abandoned trolleys also obstruct emergency services access when they need to navigate streets or public spaces swiftly. By encouraging retailers to adopt containment systems, we minimise these risks and make our city safer for everyone. Trolleys also, especially left in outdoor spaces, are vulnerable to the elements, so over time, exposure to weather conditions cause them to deteriorate, creating a waste issue. Most of these trolleys end up in watercourses, or sorry, not most, many, where they contribute to pollution and harm local ecosystems. With global concerns about plastic waste and environmental degradation, we have a responsibility to take proactive steps to protect the natural environment. And by encouraging retailers to use containment systems, we not only reduce the number of trolleys that end up abandoned or discarded, we also help limit the environmental impact of these metal and plastic objects, where a simple containment system can decrease the number of trolleys that need to be replaced due to wear and tear, and can ensure that they can still be used, that those who are still used are properly maintained and cared for. And both deposit systems and magnetic wheel locking casters can be retrofitted to existing trolley stock, so we're not asking them to purchase new trolleys. Now, some might argue that the instalment of containment systems may incur additional costs for retailers. I will say that Coles Group reported a net profit after tax of $1.1 billion in the 2024 financial year. Wesfarmers, which owns Bunnings, Kmart, Target and Officeworks, reported a net profit after tax of $2,557 million in 2024. So by providing trolleys, these retailers increase their profitability by allowing customers to buy more products. So I think it is reasonable that they use a small percentage of that profit to better manage their property. And let's consider the long-term savings and benefits of containment systems. Abandoned trolleys can be costly for businesses, as they often have to be retrieved, repaired or replaced, and these costs do add up over time and don't even account for the indirect losses caused by the negative impact on a store's reputation. Retailers who implement containment systems could also benefit from more organised and efficient operation, reducing time and resources spent on retrieving trolleys and improving customer satisfaction. In fact, some retailers found that small investment in containment technology results in long-term savings, with staff at Coles in Swanview reporting that it reduces store theft, with the trolleys unable to be loaded up with groceries and run out the car park. I've personally witnessed a trolley loaded with groceries be sprinted across 4 lanes of high road traffic outside the Riverton Coles, with a security guard in pursuit, but definitely unable to keep up. Moreover, such systems could highlight a business's commitment to community care and environmental responsibility. Ultimately, this is about fostering a culture of responsibility and shared care for our public spaces. The role of local councils is not just to regulate, but also collaborate with businesses and residents to create a more harmonious environment. The current system of reactive trolley retrieval places the burden on the community to report through various websites and phone lines, with some retailers taking up to 2 weeks to collect reported trolleys. That's if you can get an answer. I've personally called Lynwood IGA up to 12 times before the phone was answered to be able to report a trolley, with no option to leave a voicemail, or any online ones for that one. In conclusion, I urge the Council to support this nomination to encourage retailers to use trolley containment systems in our city. It will lead to a cleaner, safer and more environmentally responsible community. By taking this simple step, we can help ensure our city remains a place of pride for all who live and work here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Would anyone else like to speak on the item? Councillor Singh.
Got a question, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
for the CEO. CEO, the question is regarding motion item 2C, undertake a public information campaign via the city's electronic platforms. My question is, what's your view? What will be in, a part of public information campaign? How big it will be? Any ideas? I don't expect detailed information, but what's your view on that campaign?
CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Thank you for the question. Look, haven't contemplated, if I'm honest, what a public information campaign may or may not be. If the notice of motion tonight is supported, our team, both Mr. Fisher, our Rangers team, and others will sit down and contemplate what that public information campaign may be.
Yes, Councillor.
Mr. Mayor, may I please propose an amendment to item 2C? Basically, the amendment will be just to undertake a permanent, an ongoing permanent public information campaign. So just adding these 2 words.
Ongoing and permanent.
Permanent, because this is an issue. Even if we raise it today, in 6 months' times, we get new residents. It's an ongoing issue. It will always be there unless we completely eliminate it. And once we do, we can stop the campaign.
It's true of every issue that we deal with. I'm not sure what that actually would mean.
Well, I'm happy to consider just say an ongoing public information campaign, maybe not use the word permanent. I'm open, but I would like to see something that campaign continues, not just a 1 month or 1 week or 2 months campaign.
Periodic might be the word you're looking for, at least that we bring it up every now and again. CEO, your feedback to Councillor Singh?
Well, I would caution against trying to wordsmith the notice of motion here tonight. Let us sit down and undertake the actions that that councillors have asked us to do, which is to speak to Westfield, speak to the shopping complexes in our city, and let's see what the solution may or may not be. There may be a containment approach that means that shopping trolleys are retained on site. So I think it would be best for us to work through this in a more coordinated way. If you are unhappy with the response once we go through the process, then you can come back and we could start to nuance the process from that point. But I don't think it's necessary to try and create and nuance the wording tonight. What is being asked is clear, but I think we need to start to look at what the response from the supermarkets and shopping complexes would be.
Councillor Singh.
Thank you, CEO. I understand the idea, and that's mainly just the Carousel Shopping Centre. But the problem of shopping trolleys, it's been there for generations. And even if, let's say, Carousel implements...
I understand your point, but you're actually now debating your own amendment that you haven't put yet. So if you're determined to put an amendment through, you would need to have a seconder. If you don't have a seconder, we will carry on with what we have in front of us, which I think is pretty
I'm happy with that. I was trying to get what CEO is comfortable with. Is it just an ongoing or something else? That's what I was asking. But
without wishing to influence you, though, I think the proof will be in the pudding. Will be around the lobbying and the meetings that we hold with the shopping centres, and it's not just Westfield Carousel. I intend to catch up with all of the shopping centres to have a talk to them. They're the ones that control the issue. So I'm more, I understand your point, but I think the CEO is also right. That if we're going to try and determine it, whether it's 2 posts a week or 3 a month, or if we're going to get into that level of nitty-gritty over this, I think we need to allow the administration to do what they've been asked, and that is to put together a public information campaign. And if Councillor Bain thinks it's insufficient, well, obviously we can come back to council to actually beef that up or talk to the CEO about it. I'm not sure we need to amend the recommendation tonight.
Okay, so I'm happy to move that amendment as it is on the screen right now, and let's see if someone can second it.
Councillor Singh has put an amendment. The amendment is on screen. If there is well, first of all, Councillor Bain, you willing to accept the amendment? And if you're not, it's only a simple amendment. If you're not willing to accept the amendment, Councillor Bain, it's a relatively minor change. I'm prepared to determine it as a simple amendment. If you and Councillor Payne are willing to accept it, I'm willing to entertain it. If you're not, that's perfectly fine. We'll put the matter to the vote and move on.
I won't speak for Councillor Page. Might have a different approach, but I'm willing to take on board your advice, Mr Mayor, and consider a minor amendment.
Councillor Page?
I'm happy to accept it as a very minor amendment.
That being the case, I don't think it changes the intent of certainly doesn't change the intent of the amendment. It just means that the campaign, the city's administration would determine it to be, consider it to be some sort of ongoing campaign. We'll work through that in due course. I don't think there's a great issue with that. Thank you, Councillor, for that. The substantive motion is then in front of you all, councillors. Councillor Bain has spoken to it. Councillor Page has also spoken in favour of her own notice of motion. Does anyone wish to speak against the item before we put it to the vote? Councillor Hearn?
Actually speaking for. So I view this as a supply and demand issue. Certainly there's some, we need to create some incentive on the suppliers of these trolleys to control their wanderings, but definitely there is a demand, probably largely driven by people with low socioeconomic backgrounds who don't have vehicles, and perhaps from planning policies where we have, 0.75 car bays per apartment. I think we need to continue having conversations and brainstorming in this area to try and address this problem.
Thank you. Very sound point. Anyone else wish to speak on the item before we put it to the vote? Councillor Bain, no one has spoken against the item. I don't see any sense in closing debate. We'll put the item to the vote. Thank you.
The notice of motion for NOM-009-24 has been carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
Thank you, councillors. We move to item 15, which is urgent business. There is no urgent business this evening. At item 16, confidential matters, we do have a confidential matter to consider. I thank members of the public, thanks Sean for coming along this evening for their attendance, and ask that they please leave the council chamber for council to consider the confidential matter. Can I have a mover and seconder? I'll just ask for governance. are. We are live streaming. To those that have joined us, I would just like to read the outcome of Council's consideration of the confidential item that it dealt with, and Council has endorsed the following. And the item is IE 018 of 24, the title of the report being Endorsement of Heads of Agreement, Cities of Fremantle, Melville and Canning, Regional Waste Collaboration. The officer's recommendation is that one, that Council endorses the Heads of Agreement for implementing Phase 2 due diligence process, Regional Resource Recovery Centre site, Canning Vale, WA, as set out in Attachment 2 to the report. And 2, authorises the Mayor and the Chief Executive to execute and affix the City of Canning Common Seal to the Heads of Agreement set out in Attachment 2 in accordance with the City's executing documents policy CM 109. And 3, requests the CEO to procure an independent infrastructure valuation and dilapidation and condition report of all of the fixed infrastructure assets at the Regional Resource Recovery Centre located at lots 77, 78 and 85 Bannister Road, Canning Vale, before entering into the settlement. And 4, subject to item 3 above, authorises the Mayor and the Chief Executive Officer to execute and affix the City of Canning Common Seal to the subsequent settlement deed in accordance with the City's executing documents policy CM 109, inclusive of the key terms outlined in paragraph 16 of this report. Governance, can I get you please to read out the vote on that item?
The substantive motion as amended for IE-018-24 was carried unanimously with all 11 in favour.
I think Councillor Hearn was against. There's one against, as Councillor Hearn.
Go to the vote.
That's it. That's okay.
Yes, 10 in favour and Councillor Hearn voting against the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the business of Council this evening. Councillors, can I get you just to stay in your places after I close the meeting just for a little moment? At item 17, closure, there being no further business, I now declare the meeting closed. The time being 7:47 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance. So thank you and good night. And Governors, can you just tell me when the live streaming is finished?